Some love stories are tested by time, but the strongest ones are tested by character. What would happen if a billionaire disguised himself as a poor beggar just to discover whether the woman he loved truly cared about him, or only about wealth and status? In today's story, a Nigerian tech billionaire returns to the airport in dirty clothes and a long beard to test the heart of his childhood lover who just came back from America. What she does next will surprise everyone. Stay with this powerful story until the end. And if you enjoy inspiring stories about love, success, and life-changing moments, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more amazing stories. Many years ago, in a quiet neighborhood on the mainland of Lagos, two children from completely different worlds formed a friendship that no one expected. On one side of the street stood a large white mansion surrounded by high fences, security guards, and shiny cars that changed almost every month. That was the home of Jane's family, one of the wealthiest families in the area. Across the street, however, stood a small, aging bungalow with a rusted zinc roof and cracked walls. That was where Kola lived with his parents. Kola was 14 years old, tall for his age, slim, and always carrying a screwdriver or small toolbox. Even as a teenager, he had an unusual talent. He could fix almost anything. Broken radios, phones, fans, and sometimes even televisions found their way into his hands. The neighborhood children often joked about him. "Just give it to Kola," they would say. "If it's not totally dead, he will bring it back to life." But there was one person who admired him more than anyone else. That person was Jane, the 9-year-old daughter of the billionaire family across the street. Unlike most rich children, Jane did not enjoy staying inside her mansion surrounded by luxury toys. She preferred sneaking out through the side gate just to sit beside Kola while he repaired electronics. One sunny afternoon, Kola sat outside their house repairing an old radio. Suddenly, he heard hurried footsteps. "Kola! Kola!" He looked up. Jane came running toward him, her curly hair bouncing as she clutched a tablet in her hands. Kola sighed dramatically. What did you destroy today?" Jane frowned. "I didn't destroy it, it just stopped working." Kola raised an eyebrow. "Just like that?" She nodded seriously. "Yes." Kola took the tablet and inspected it carefully. "Did you pour juice on it again?" Jane looked away. "Maybe small." Kola burst out laughing. "You see, that is why rich people should not touch electronics." Jane crossed her arms stubbornly. "Just fix it." Within a few minutes, Kola opened the device, cleaned it, and restarted it. The screen lit up. Jane jumped with excitement. "You did it again!" She sat beside him on the wooden bench. "Kola, how do you know all these things?" Kola shrugged. "I just like fixing things." Jane smiled brightly. "One day you will be very rich." Kola laughed. "Rich? Me?" Jane nodded confidently. "Yes, you're smarter than all the adults I know." Kola shook his head jokingly. "If I become rich, I will first buy 10 plates of jollof rice." Jane giggled loudly. Then she suddenly became serious. "When I grow up, I will marry you." Kola nearly dropped his screwdriver. "What?" Jane nodded firmly. "Yes." Kola laughed so hard he almost fell off the bench. "You are only 9 years old." "So what?" Jane replied proudly. "You will see." From the balcony of the mansion, Jane's mother watched them with growing irritation. She turned to her husband and said coldly, "That boy is getting too close to our daughter." Her husband nodded. This friendship must end. They believed their daughter deserved someone rich and powerful, not the son of poor parents who repaired broken gadgets outside his house. But Jane didn't care about money. To her, Kola was simply her best friend, and every afternoon she continued sneaking out to sit beside him under the mango tree, laughing, talking, and sharing dreams that seemed impossible. Neither of them knew that very soon life would separate them for many years. The friendship between Kola and Jane continued for 3 beautiful years. Almost every evening after school, Jane would sneak out of her family's mansion and run across the street to sit beside Kola under the mango tree. Sometimes she brought snacks from her house. cookies, juice, or chocolate. Kola would always tease her. "Are you sure your mother knows you're feeding the poor boy across the street?" Jane would laugh. "You are not poor. You are just temporarily rich in knowledge." Kola would shake his head. "You speak like a motivational speaker." Their laughter often filled the quiet street in Lagos. But inside Jane's mansion, her parents watched their friendship with growing anger. One evening, Jane's mother called her husband into the living room. "This must stop," she said firmly. "That boy is influencing our daughter too much." Her husband sighed. "She's just a child." "She's not just a child," she replied. "Children grow up, and if we don't act now, she will grow up thinking she can marry anyone." Her father understood what she meant. In their world, status mattered, and Kola was not part of their world, so they made a decision. Jane would leave Nigeria to study in the United States. Officially, it was for better education, but the real reason was simple. They wanted to separate her from Kola. The night before the flight, when Jane heard the news, her heart broke. She ran across the street to find Kola. He was sitting outside, fixing an old fan. "Kola," she called. Kola looked up and immediately noticed something was wrong. "Why are your eyes red? Did someone beat you in school?" Jane shook her head and sat beside him quietly. "My parents are sending me away." Kola stopped working. "Away where?" "To America." Kola stared at her. "For holiday?" Jane slowly shook her head. "For school." Silence filled the air. Even the evening breeze seemed to stop. "For how long?" Kola finally asked. "I don't know," Jane whispered. "Maybe many years." Kola tried to smile. "Well, that means you will come back with an American accent." Jane wiped a tear. "This is not funny." Kola looked down at the screwdriver in his hand. "Did you tell them you don't want to go?" "Yes," she said, "but they already bought the ticket." Jane then removed a small notebook from her bag. "Write your address and phone number." Kola raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "So I can write to you." Kola smiled softly and wrote down his details. Jane carefully copied them. "I promise I will send you letters," she said. Kola nodded. "And I will reply." She looked at him seriously. "Don't forget me." Kola laughed gently. "How can I forget the girl who destroys electronics every week?" Jane managed a small smile. Then she suddenly hugged him tightly. Kola froze in surprise. "Jane, people are looking." "I don't care," she whispered. She stepped back and looked at him with determination. "Promise me something." "What?" "Promise you will wait for me." Waiting is expensive." Jane frowned. "Kola!" He laughed and raised his hands. Okay, I promise." Jane smiled again. That night, neither of them slept well. The hidden truth. The next morning, Jane left for the airport with her parents. Kola stood outside his house, watching the car disappear down the street. He felt something inside him change. For the first time, he realized how big the world was, and how small he felt in it. But he also remembered Jane's words. "One day, you will be very rich." Meanwhile, Jane kept her promise. From America, she wrote letters to Kola every month. But there was a problem. Her parents intercepted every letter before it was sent. They hid them. Some they even destroyed. To Jane, it seemed like Kola had forgotten her. And to Kola, it seemed like Jane had disappeared from his life forever. Years passed. Seasons changed. Children grew into adults. But deep in their hearts, neither of them completely forgot the promise they made under the mango tree. After Jane left, life became much quieter for Kola. The mango tree where they used to sit every evening now felt empty. Sometimes he still sat there alone after school, fixing radios or small electronics, but the laughter that once filled the air was gone. For a while, he kept checking the mailbox in front of their small house in Lagos. Every afternoon, he hoped to see a letter with Jane's handwriting. But no letter ever came. Weeks became months. Months became years. Eventually, Kola stopped expecting anything. One evening, his mother noticed him sitting quietly outside. "You're thinking about that rich girl again, aren't you?" she asked gently. Kola shrugged. "She probably forgot me." His mother sat beside him. People forget many things when life changes. Kola looked at the broken phone in his hands. Well, I won't forget the promise I made. His mother smiled. What promise? Kola looked at the sky thoughtfully. That I will become something in life. The struggle, life for Kola's family, was never easy. His father worked long hours as a mechanic, and sometimes there was barely enough money to pay school fees. Many nights electricity went off in the neighborhood. But while others slept, Kola continued studying with a kerosene lantern beside him. His friends often joked with him. One night in university, his roommate laughed and said, Kola, why do you read like you're preparing to become the president? Kola smiled calmly. I'm preparing for something bigger. What is bigger than president? His friend asked. Kola replied with confidence. Building something that will change people's lives. Years of hard work finally paid off. Kola graduated as one of the best students in his class, first class in tech engineering. When his name was announced during the graduation ceremony, his parents could not stop crying. His father hugged him tightly. You have changed our family's story. But Kola knew his journey was just beginning. The first business. After university, Kola struggled like many young graduates. Jobs were scarce. Companies rejected his applications repeatedly. One day, a friend suggested something bold. Why don't you start your own company? Kola laughed. With what money? But the idea stayed in his mind. Using a small loan from a former lecturer and some savings from repair jobs, Kola rented a tiny office space. It had only one table, 2 plastic chairs, and an old laptop. But to Kola, it looked like the beginning of a dream. He called the company Kola Tech Solutions. At first, they built simple software for small businesses. Then something unexpected happened. One of their applications solved a major logistics problem for a large company in Abuja. The company signed a huge contract with Kola Tech. Suddenly, investors began calling. Within a few years, Kola Tech expanded across Nigeria. Soon they opened offices in Lagos, Nairobi, and Cape Town. The small company had become a tech empire. Before long, business magazines started talking about a mysterious young billionaire behind the company. But there was one strange thing. Very few people had ever seen him. Kola avoided interviews and public events. He preferred to focus on building the company quietly. One day, his manager asked him curiously, Sir, why do you hide from the media? Most billionaires enjoy the attention. Kola smiled faintly. I'm not interested in fame. So what are you interested in? Kola leaned back in his chair. Keeping promises. The letter that changed everything. One evening, while reviewing documents in his luxurious office, his assistant walked in. Sir, there is a letter for you. Kola frowned. A letter? Yes. Someone sent it to your old home address, and your parents forwarded it. Kola opened the envelope slowly. The moment he saw the handwriting, his heart skipped. It was Jane's handwriting. He read the letter carefully. Kola, I don't know if this letter will reach you. I tried writing many times before but never got a reply. I'm coming back to Nigeria next week after graduating from school in America. I hope you didn't forget me. Your childhood troublemaker, Jane. Kola leaned back in his chair. After all these years, she was coming back. He looked out through the glass wall of his office at the glowing city lights. A small smile slowly appeared on his face. But has she changed? He wondered. Will she still recognize the boy she once believed in? Then suddenly, an idea formed in his mind. A very unusual idea. Kola laughed quietly. If Jane still has the same heart, she will pass this test. And that was the moment. He decided to do something no billionaire had ever done before. He would disguise himself as a beggar and meet her at the airport. The morning Jane was scheduled to arrive felt strangely important to Kola. From the balcony of his luxurious penthouse in Lagos, he stared at the sunrise spreading across the city skyline. Luxury cars waited in his garage. His assistants were already calling about meetings and contracts. But today, none of that mattered. Today, he wanted to see Jane again. Not as a billionaire, but as the poor boy she once knew. He smiled to himself. Let's see if my Jane still exists. The unbelievable disguise. Later that morning, Kola arrived at Murtala Muhammad International Airport. But no one would have recognized him. His expensive suit was gone. Instead, he wore old, torn clothes, dusty slippers, and a long fake beard that made him look 10 years older. His hair looked rough and uncombed. He even rubbed a little dirt on his face. When he looked in the mirror earlier that morning, he laughed loudly. If my board of directors see me like this, they might resign. Now standing near the airport exit, he leaned against a pillar like a tired street beggar. Passengers passed him without paying attention. Some people even avoided standing too close to him. One woman whispered to her husband, "Please move away from that man." Kola almost laughed. So this is how the world treats poor people, he thought quietly. Hours passed. Flights landed. Passengers walked out excitedly to meet their families. But Kola stayed there patiently. Then suddenly, he saw her. Jane returns home. Jane walked out of the arrival gate pulling a small suitcase. She looked different from the little girl he remembered. She was now a confident young woman, elegant, graceful, and full of life. Her eyes scanned the crowd excitedly. "Kola should be here," she whispered to herself. Just then her mother waved from the front of the waiting area. "Jane!" Jane's face lit up. "Mom!" She ran into her mother's arms. "I missed you so much." Her mother hugged her tightly. "Welcome home, my daughter." But after a moment, Jane looked around. Her eyes searched the crowd. "Mom, where is Kola?" Her mother's smile faded immediately. "Kola? Yes, I wrote him that I was coming today." Her mother folded her arms. "Don't worry about that boy." Jane frowned. "What do you mean?" Her mother sighed dramatically. "My dear, you studied in the United States. You are now a graduate. You deserve someone successful." Jane shook her head. "Mom, that's not what I asked." Her mother replied coldly. "That boy cannot afford to love someone like you." Standing a few steps behind them, Kola listened quietly. Jane's face became serious. "No, I know Kola. If he got my letter, he would be here." Kola smiled slightly under his beard. "Good," he thought. "She still believes in me." The unexpected encounter. Kola slowly walked toward them, pretending to limp slightly. "Madam, please help me with some money for food." Jane's mother immediately turned with irritation. "Excuse me?" Kola bowed his head slightly. "I have not eaten since yesterday." Jane's mother waved her hand angrily. "Please, leave us alone. Go and find work instead of begging." People nearby glanced at the scene, but Jane looked at the man carefully. Something about him made her feel pity. "Oh no, he looks so hungry." She opened her purse. Her mother gasped. "Jane, don't even think about it." Jane ignored her. She took out the last small dollar bill she had from her trip. She placed it gently in his hand. "Please buy some food." Kola almost forgot he was acting. Her kindness touched him deeply. But her mother looked horrified. "You just came from America, and you're already giving money to strangers?" Jane laughed softly. "Mom, relax. It's just money." Her mother whispered angrily, "You don't know who these people are. He could be a Yahoo boy pretending to be poor." Kola nearly burst out laughing. A Yahoo boy, he thought? If only she knew. A kind heart. As they walked toward their car, Jane struggled with her luggage. The disguised Kola quickly stepped forward. "Madam, let me help you carry your bags." Jane smiled warmly. "Thank you." Her mother rolled her eyes, but said nothing. Kola carried the bags easily to their expensive SUV. Just before he stepped away, Jane quietly slipped a small piece of paper into his hand. Kola looked down. It was her phone number. Jane whispered softly, "If you ever need help, call me." For a moment, Kola forgot the entire plan. His heart beat fast. After all the years, after the distance, after the silence, Jane's kindness had not changed. As the car drove away, Kola stood there holding the paper. Then he smiled slowly. "Well," he said to himself, "Jane, you just passed the test." The moment after the airport encounter stayed with Kola all day. He returned to his penthouse in Lagos, still wearing the remnants of his disguise, and stared at the glowing city lights below. Everything he had built, every contract, every office, every team, it all seemed meaningless compared to one thing: Jane's heart. He knew it was time. Time to reveal the truth. The perfect setup. That evening, Jane's parents invited her to their mansion, eager to show off their luxurious modern Nigerian interior. Sleek marble floors, golden accents, large abstract paintings, and a staircase that seemed to float like art. Jane admired the design, but her thoughts kept drifting. "Where's Kola?" she asked quietly as she walked through the hallway. Her mother, trying to maintain control, said, "Don't worry about that boy. He is not relevant anymore." But Jane shook her head, playful determination in her eyes. "Mom, you don't understand. I know him. If he got my letter, he would be here." The arrival. Just then, the mansion gates opened, and a convoy of luxury cars rolled in. The guards parted as a tall, confident man stepped out of the sleek black car, dressed in a tailored suit. His eyes scanned the property, and then they landed on Jane. Jane froze. Her breath caught. "Kola?" she whispered. Her mother gasped, and her father's jaw nearly dropped. "Yes," Kola said calmly, a small smile playing on his lips. "It's me." Jane looked confused. Then realization dawned. "Wait, you're the beggar at the airport?" Kola chuckled. "I had to make sure. I needed to see if my childhood Jane still existed, the kind-hearted Jane who doesn't care about money or appearances." Her mother turned pale. You are a billionaire?" she stammered. Kola nodded. "I own Kola Tech Global. It's been growing quietly for years." Her father shook his head in disbelief. "That company, all this time?" "Yes," Kola said, smiling, "and I kept my promise." Reunion of hearts. Jane laughed, half in shock, half in relief. "So all this time, you were testing me?" Kola nodded, stepping closer. "I needed to know if love could survive wealth, distance, and time. You passed." Jane folded her arms, mock scolding him. "And here I thought I was just helping a hungry stranger at the airport." Kola grinned. "You helped because it was the right thing to do. That's who you are, Jane. That's why I love you." Jane shook her head, laughing softly. "And I never stopped loving you either, Kola. Even when we were apart, I kept hoping you were out there, growing into the man I always believed you would be." They embraced, and for a moment the luxurious mansion seemed to fade away. All that mattered was them. The parents' change of heart. Jane's mother cleared her throat. "Well, I suppose we were wrong to keep you apart." Jane laughed and hugged Kola again. "See, Mom, some things money cannot control." Her father smiled for the first time since her return. "I guess love is one investment that pays off beyond measure." Kola held Jane's hands gently. "And now we begin a new chapter together. No more hiding, no more tests." Jane nodded, agreed. "But you have to promise me one thing." "What?" Kola asked. "Never pretend to be poor again just to test me," she said, laughing. Kola smiled warmly. "Deal." True love does not care about status, wealth, or appearances. Jane helped Kola at the airport, not because he was a billionaire, but because she saw the kind heart beneath the tattered clothes. That act of kindness was worth more than any fortune. Now, together, Kola and Jane built a life full of love, laughter, and shared dreams, proving that even after years apart, the heart always remembers the truth. If you enjoyed this story, remember to like and subscribe for more amazing tales of love, success, and destiny.